I guess so many. I think I've got, I'll bet you, I think I have close to 200 emails just in this first week of June, all right? To give you an idea what's going on. And probably people that, yeah, this is what's going on, all right? You can figure out the rest with the reality of our, you can figure out our reality just from that alone, right? Hi, Steve. I think I've heard you ask this question a few times now. The answer is simple. Number one, they don't want to admit there is a different First Nations people and have to give them a shitload of money and land. Number two, they're pushing a racist agenda right now. White men are bad. They don't want you to find out hairy men are worse. Number three, they're hunting and killing them because the elite are the gods' minions and the gods want the mixed seed wiped out, or at very least controlled and contained. Number four, they are half god or more and the gods are currently hiding out. If you see a Bigfoot, then hey, you know what gods look like. You're not supposed to know. He'll scare the shit out of you when he's good and ready. You're welcome. Oh, and those idiots in the bush looking for dermal ridges, etc. They are the elite's useful idiots. You know it. YouTube is pushing their shit. All right. And there you go. There's some thoughts from one of our avid listeners and subscribers. Thanks for that email, I guess. and send in some hardcore knowledge if you can in the future if you come across them. All right, man? Listen, what's the next one here? Yes, my statements were bold. All right, this is from, I believe it's from the man who said gave us the number count on how many of these things were on near that Force's base. What was it, Fort Lewis, I think? Let's see what we got here. Yes, my statements were bold. I'm a dying man. My heart is giving out after 5 bypass operations. You asked, who told you there are close to 30 Sabe near the bases? A high brass officer. Now I've known since the 80s. See, there are many surveillance cameras in the area, thermal and infrared, that help capture the beings as they come close, mixed with some software that separates the individuals by size, shape, as well as personality traits, i.e. the way they walk, how they stand, move, and frequency of visitation. When Sabe get pushy around the area or near troops, helicopters are sent out to push them back. There are residents in the town of Yelm that will gladly discuss the military and local law enforcement activity if you crave more. Now, I understand your reluctance in the validity of my story. However, I'm 83, and I really don't give a shit if anyone believes. You're a solid man, as it seems, worldly, intelligent, but don't become cynical when an experience told sounds like a pile of bullshit. Quite frankly, I've got 0 time to play games. Use it, share it. You or anyone can prove my facts, TJ. All right, TJ. First off, I hope your health improves and I hope you keep going. I think you probably know as well as I do, this lifetime isn't the only one, man. We're just going to go to that next level, right? And again, I absolutely appreciate you emailing me in the first time, this time, and any other time you decide to do so, and share as much as you can with us. There's a lot of people that are benefiting from your experience and your words, all right, including me. And I am the as neutral as I can be messenger. Okay, so any thoughts I may have projected in a reply to your other past email about, blatantly saying there's 30 of these things at X amount, X spot in the forest, I'm possibly conveying exactly what the crowd is probably going to convey to you, right? There's no getting around it, and definitely nobody's not playing any games here. This is all solid conversation and knowledge being shared at the round table of knowledge, which you're a member of, all right? So thank you so much again for your reply. Absolutely appreciate it, and I hope your health maintains your life for a long time yet, all right? Please share more if you can. Greetings, Steve. I want to send you this email story to contribute to the tsunami of data your channel has elicited. This sighting occurred in the southeastern corner of New Mexico on the northern tip of the Chihuahua Desert Band. 3 of us were out in the sand dunes riding quads and grilling out for the entire day. Once dusk set in, we packed up and headed down the dusty back roads towards the highway. There are several defunct potash mines in this area, and as we neared a property fence and the cattle guarded gate, we're adjacent to one of the abandoned potash production buildings that litter this area. The sun was almost set, and the driver flipped the headlights on as we were moving at a brisk clip towards the cattle gate when we saw it, and it saw us. Initially, the driver and myself thought we were seeing some goofball in an ape suit, but the passenger in the back seat was white-knuckling the headrests and babbling and telling us to leave immediately in an extremely bitchy and blubbery manner, which was incredibly disconcerting, knowing the caliber of man he is. During that quick span of seconds, it simultaneously registered to both the driver and myself that whatever was looking back at us wasn't any kind of fauna seen in these parts. As this epiphany was starting to sink in, the creature bounded away from us parallel to the dirt road we were on and outrunning the vehicle. The dexterity coordination displayed by this biped was seriously alarming. Way back in my mind, but I wouldn't get around to processing that until well after. A standard chain link fence line was ahead of us and the creature, and as we slowed down, the creature leapt up very gracefully and did a weird cannonball-type leap over that fence as though it was hardly concerned. Once it cleared the fence, it disappeared almost instantly into some deep mesquite and was gone. It was after this that I sent a query to a now deceased gentleman by the name of Lloyd Pye. Bipedal hominids were one of his passions, and I had watched some of his presentations on YouTube concerning his theories and intelligence he had acquired during his lifelong research into the subject. I asked him about the possibility of such a hairy creatures roaming this far south, given that I had only ever heard, at the time, of creatures like that in the far to the north in the Pacific Northwest and Canadian territories. Mr. Pye explained to me that he believed these creatures use the forests of the continent they inhabit as a migratory superhighway of sorts, and that there were sightings from the Arctic Circle to the southern tip of Argentina. I have zero clue if this is actually the case, but I have not been able to, how should I put it, compartmentalize the encounter and make it mesh with my now disintegrated worldview. I find it fascinating that so many have witnessed these beings and there is so very little physical evidence to produce or for confirmation, or at least to validate their existence beyond any doubt to the entire world. I hope this data is useful to someone who is also searching for the truth. Maybe a new hypotheses can be formulated based on the ranges they allegedly roam, or even if they are or are not migratory. I hope that your viewers can combine the entirety of their collective data and move us one step closer to an honest and honorable truth that will allow people to find the truth they seek. Many thanks for all you do in pursuit of the truth and the light of knowledge. So few can uplift these days, while it seems every ignorant cheese dick on the planet is trying to tear everything apart. Respectfully, B.L. Brewer. I waive all objections and give my blessing to disseminate whatever data or clues you deem fit and proper to share with your audience. Well, okay, man. Appreciate the share, the time you took to email that in. It's funny, as soon as you said that thing when the chain link fence was coming up, my mind went instantly to one of our contacts in the scientific community who watched one of these things effortlessly jump over a 10, 12-foot chain link fence and land on the other side and stand up to basically the same height of the fence of 12 feet. And as soon as you said that thing went with ease over the fence you mentioned, I instantly recalled that not too long ago email share as well. What a thing to witness. What a frickin' thing to witness, eh? What a share, man. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it big time. Unbelievable. All right, what do we got? Hi, Steve. These are the following encounters I've experienced. My name is Diego, and you can use my name. I'm a social worker from Velarde, New Mexico. It's a bit lengthy, so if it makes the cut, cool. If not, I just want someone to read it because I don't advertise my experiences. It's never too long, man. And all you out there listening, it's never too long, all right? If it's got some helpful stuff in there, something you need to get off your chest, it's getting shared. In 1990, I was 12 years old growing up in New Mexico. Camping and fishing was a huge part of my life. My mother and father did what they could to introduce me to nature and wildlife. However, I learned how to fish and tie hooks from the instructions on the package of Eagle Claw hooks and fishing shows on PBS. I was excited because I'd be going camping to the Santa Clara Canyon, located in the heart of Santa Clara Pueblo along the Los Alamos Highway. Most of you will know this location where the Cerro Grande fire decimated the area in the early 2000s. Back then, the canyon was beautiful as it was 3 lakes high in the shape of an S pattern, with the first lake at the entrance, the second in the middle, and the third at the top. The canyon lakes are linked to each other by a small stream with spillways at the bottom of each lake. Nature had taken over these spillways and they appeared to be natural waterfalls. I spent all week exploring each waterway, finding leftover items from forgetful fishermen, pocket knives, jars of bait, hats, etc. The last day I decided I did not want to leave, however my parents had other plans. They did say they would cruise down from the top lake and I could fish the stream all the way down until I reached the entrance. I agreed and began my trek, stopping at different fishing holes to cast my line. I had my rod, my Green Army waterproof pants, and my small tackle bag. As I followed the stream, I kept having to cross into the main road each time the entrance to the lake appeared. When I reached the second lake, I had to step into the main road and I heard somebody running full speed, as if like in slow motion. I couldn't move or believe what I was looking at. I saw a red-haired monkey man running full speed at me. I didn't have time to react. It was gnashing its teeth or talking to itself. Just as I thought it was going to tackle me, it veered off to its left and ran straight up the side of a very steep mountain. The next thing I knew, a tourist in a gray Jeep Cherokee stopped to check on me. She and her husband kept saying, "Are you all right?" and patting me down, I guess to check for injuries. They kept saying, "Did you see that? I can't believe you're okay." My parents were right behind them, and as they pulled up, I rolled into the back of my dad's white Chevy S10 and I told them I wanted to leave. The creature was red-haired, tan leather face, black eyes, jagged, human-looking teeth, but not very big, perhaps 6'5", and I was already 5'11" at 12 years old. But I never felt more like I needed my parents than at that moment. I did not realize that maybe it was following me. I didn't smell anything or hear anything. I mean, nothing unusual. For years, I thought I was crazy, and I blocked it out until I was much older and was fishing along the Rio Grande in quality waters. As I approached a willow tree line along the bank, something started shaking the willow trees violently and grunting. I ran for my life, and it all came back. I started listening to Sasquatch Chronicles from the time it first started on YouTube. I even went to a conference at Brenda Harris's place in Farmington, New Mexico, and picked up a Sasquatch window decal. I say this to lead into how I know I'm not crazy, just lucky perhaps. I went to a local store one day, and when I exited, there was this girl about my age, literally standing against my truck. I asked her if I could help her, and she replied, "Do you believe in him?" as she pointed at the decal. I proceeded to tell her about my encounter, and then she took me with her account of having experienced, and then she shook me with her account of having experienced a sighting in Santa Clara Canyon with a red-haired monkey man that kept trying to entice her as a little girl to follow it somewhere. What are the odds? We exchanged information, but I think we both left relieved that we had not hallucinated as kids. That canyon is destroyed now due to the Cerro fire, and efforts made to repair are ongoing. The park remains closed to all the public to this day. New Mexico is considered a frontier state. The only metropolitan city we really have is Albuquerque. 5 years ago, I was laid off from work, and on the drive home, I decided to turn into BLM property to gather my thoughts for going home to break the news to my family. When I entered the area, I quickly noticed government SUV trucks and tents set up in an area where people dump their trash, party, and target practice. I saw men with assault rifles and tactical gear. I grabbed my binoculars to survey what was going on. However, I was getting nervous they might detain me even though I was a good distance away. I had no job and my unemployment got approved, so I began to visit these campers on the way back from driving my kids to school in the morning and when I picked them up in the afternoon. The SUVs would change from black to white. This area sits in the back of my property. It is BLM land, but also a public hunting area. Remember, we were talking rural, living in New Mexico. We started to hear strange sounds and planes and helicopters started flying over our homes like really close. I decided they were either hunting something or training back there. Whatever it was, at night they would push it closer to our homes. It had been about a week, and activity from this government group started to slow down. In the process, something had taken one of my pit bull females off of her chain and then clipped her chain to her mate's chain. Needless to say, the male never stayed right. He would not allow anyone to pick him up nor move him from that spot. Now he growls and snarls like he was traumatized. Highly unusual behavior. When activity finally ceased, my family and I were outside early afternoon, and all of a sudden we heard an air raid siren. At least that's what I thought it was. It was so loud, I started to get nervous. However, when it ended, it sounded like a man yelling, "Ah!" An air raid siren that ended in a man's scream? I now know they were hunting it. I now know what they were hunting, and it sounded like they got them, all except one. I would come to find out that the one that got away was then sighted 10 miles north as it approached 2 children, and the young kids urinated from fear. The children advised their mother that the big gorilla wanted to take the kids somewhere, but the oldest let his fear save them, and he rushed his little sister quickly into the house. The mother then contacted me through a family member because she had heard my story and figured no one would believe her either. Steve, I'm a huge supporter of how you're handling this topic. I'm not sure being a member of the Sasquatch Club is all that great, but I still hunt. I don't bang on trees and scream. Not eager to join the members of the top 10 idiots. This happened, and for those searching, I asked, what will you do? This monkey man outclasses us physically, and in their environment, we're like children. Even with a 300 Win Mag, 190 grain Winchester Expedition big game, I don't feel totally confident. I do feel the same way, though. I know they are there. Leave me alone, or yes, you'll get into some shit. I hunt, but sometimes I feel like I'm armed with a small... I hunt, but sometimes I feel like I'm armed for small tour of duty. But I hunt with my 3 sons, wife, and daughters. My sons and I are not small by any means, but respect the forest and the animals we harvest. Keep up the good work, and God bless. P.S. P.S. I recently chilled out on the Overkill arms. I still get certain feelings, and since I found your channel, my puzzle pieces make more sense. I would also like to say to everyone that tunes in to How to Hunt to listen up and learn. You can't ever grow if you're not open to everyone's encounters and theories. Oh, man. Well, hold on. I got bugs coming in and out of my eyeballs here. Oh, little bastards. That's quite the experience and quite the information you passed on about what went on with the government vehicles. And it's nothing new, right? The fact that some of that shit's been going on with government and in the night rurally is definitely nothing new to report to the people. But none of the people in the government want to report that to the people, right? Share with us. Why? I don't know why. Hiding something, non-stop hiding something, but the cat's out of the bag now, man. You can't deny it. The cat's out of the bag. And people are talking, and you're not going to shut us up. It's far, far, far past that. Thanks for your work, Steve. Just allowing others to witness is a great approach. It's powerful in its simplicity. As to the type of the rifle carried by the tiny hunter in the Skagit Valley. Okay, this is a reply to the guy who saw that little person with the long gun, which I'd never heard a story like that before. I don't know about you guys, but here we go. As to the type of rifle carried by the tiny hunter in the Skagit Valley, I can only say it was not modern, and it was quite long. I also remember, although it was 50 years ago, that the stock came way up the barrel. Even way back then, it looked like a total antique, but it wasn't a flintlock, I don't think. I've never seen the wild people of the woods, but I think they exist. I've heard first-hand stories. I don't believe all the stories of sightings, nor the intuitions, but I think they are there. A number of people seem to be saying they're in close contact with them. This may not be true, but if it were, couldn't just a little more proof be provided to the big bad world out there? Or maybe not as best somehow. Hans Nelson, Vashon Island. All right, Hans, thanks for that, man. That's a pretty interesting thing that you saw there. A small person with a long gun in antique clothing. It's so frickin' bizarre. Wisconsin sighting. Hi, Steve. About a month ago, I came across your channel while surfing YouTube. Excellent platform. I thought I knew a lot of my intake from the past information sources. Your channel just upped it to another level. I noticed that you're a friend/associate of David Paulides. I've been a huge fan of his books for years, and now his YouTube channel. Bigfoot and missing people intrigue me. I'll touch on how this came to be while I share my story. Back in August of '81, myself, my twin brother, and our girlfriends, now our wives, were dating in high school. When we would visit our girlfriends, one of the things we would do for entertainment is go into the woods, make a fire, and do what teens in love do, make out. Well, one warm summer night, we were all in the car going to our usual area, which is forested and off sandy logging roads. This area is bordering on the south side of the Menominee Indian Reservation, Shawano County, Wisconsin. This area of recreation acres is known as the Moose Yard. This night we found a different cleared spot and sat in the car talking. The headlights were facing the woods, during which time we noticed some eyes shining above a branch of a tree. We thought it was a bear standing up, but it was too high. We then thought it was an owl on the branch. My brother, the driver in the car, hit the high beams, at which time we saw a huge figure turn and walk away. We all yelled, just short of a panic. My brother sped out of there as fast as he could on the loose sandy roads. When we got back to the house, we discussed what we saw. Three of us, having artistic talent, drew up what we saw, which of course was Bigfoot. We also decided not to mention this to anyone, not even our girlfriend's parents, as we felt we wouldn't be believed. The following day we drove back to said location to wrap our heads around what we observed. When we found the tree, it was determined the branch where the eye shine was above approximately 9 feet. The area was covered in grass and we couldn't find any tracks or even indentations. We then walked in the direction in which it turned and walked, about 50 yards due east. There was a big black circle burned in the high grass, meaning the grass was burnt and swirled in a circular pattern. This perfect circle was about 30 feet in diameter. The mature trees that abutted to the circle were burned also, with the burn mark facing the circle from the ground up about 3 feet. Who do we tell? How did this burn mark get there? It was fresh. There were no signs of heavy equipment in there. It should be noted, while looking up to the sky from this pattern, there were no tree branches over the circle. These observations threw in more confusion, as our young minds couldn't comprehend what the heck this all was. Fast forward 40 years. I'm retired law enforcement / self-employed PI. My wife is employed with the TSA and self-employed PI. My brother is a retired firefighter. His wife is a baking entrepreneur. As I said previously, I've spent the last 40 plus years voraciously reading up on cryptids and UFO phenomenon. And like you say, the puzzle's coming together. Thanks for your channel, platform, and sharing. You may read this letter, as I know there are Wisconsinites out there that have seen these phenomenon. I know what we saw without shame. Kevin. Okay, thanks, Kevin. I left out your last name. You didn't say to share it, I don't think. But either way, you're digging for puzzle pieces and it's coming together. And that is freaking awesome. So that being said, if you feel compelled later on, once your puzzle closes in tighter, be sure to email me back and share what you got, all right? And everybody else for that matter. That's where we really need to do that. And I appreciate that we're attracting many more people that are avidly seeking out pieces of their puzzle. It's very, very handy. Hi, Steve. I wrote you, this is titled, It Happened Again. Hi, Steve. I wrote you in 2019 about several strange experiences I had while scouting for deer in central Nova Scotia. Sorry I never went back to get the pictures of the twisted tree I'd said I would. Anyway, I returned to the area on May 31st, 2021 to fish a favorite river. Several very strange things happened. On my way to the river, I saw a bald eagle. And I said, "Hi, Dad," as I usually do. Silly, I know. Almost instantly, I hear a voice in my head say, "Don't go to the river." I was a little spooked, but brushed it off. If you recall, I experienced mind speak during my 2019 encounters, so I was definitely on edge. When I got to the river road, it was washed out, so I had to park on the logging road and walk in about 15 minutes. The weather was nice, a little cloudy. On my way in, I had a very bad feeling, and I said in my head, "I just want to fish, leave me alone." I'm not sure why, but that's what I said. As soon as I reached the river, it suddenly started to rain. And I mean, it was a downpour. I looked to the sky and I said, "Seriously? Am I not supposed to be here?" I decided to fish anyway, even though I forgot my rain gear. Right away, I thought I heard someone hollering, but the river was so loud I wasn't sure what I heard. The rain was getting worse, and I just couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to go, so I packed up and I left. About halfway out, I started hearing something breaking branches not 30 yards to my left in some thick spruce. I wasn't scared, but a little nervous. I could hear it walking, but I could see nothing. Remembering I had a large knife in my pack, I started to take it off and get the knife. In my head, I heard a voice say, "Don't." I'm not pretending that I'm some tough guy, but the spite hit me. I stood and looked where the noise was coming from and hollered, "F off, I'm leaving." Instantly, a large tree was snapped, and the sound was like a 22. Steve, I thought I was going to die right there. I didn't run, I just kept walking. When I reached my car, I didn't panic, but put my gear in my truck, and I took out a dry sweater. Still pissed off, I told whatever it was, "I'm changing my shirt, leave me alone." As I pulled my sweater over my head, a large rock landed on the road. I thought for sure it was going to step out, but it didn't. I got in the car and turned around and left. As soon as I left, the rain stopped and the sun came back out. I don't know how to explain what I was feeling. I wasn't afraid, really, more pissed off than anything, because I feel like I'm being targeted since my first experience whenever I'm in the woods, especially in that area. I refuse to lose my love for the outdoors. Maybe that'll be my downfall, I don't know. I think what bothered me the most was that I couldn't see it. It was close enough, but I just couldn't see anything. I've been a lifelong hunter, taking over a dozen bears and several dozen deer. I should have been able to see that animal that close. Anyway, thanks for what you do, and all the best, Jeff. Jeff, thanks for that share, man. And I can't stand it when I hear somebody who's getting nonstop harassed by these frickin' beings. But if you ever feel compelled to, get a hold of Scott Carpenter, all right? And get a hold of him and see what he's got to offer up for knowledge and how to persuade these things to leave your ass alone so you can just carry on fishing and hunting like we do, all right? He's having good luck with helping a lot of people. Thanks again for your share. I know it takes time, and I appreciate it, and I know thousands of people appreciate it here, that's for sure. Oh man, so many emails. All right, here we go. This is titled Regretful Nurse. All right. Dear Steve, let me start off by saying thank you. This platform and outlet you created for so many, I'm quite certain has helped, if not saved, many people who for years thought they were crazy, or even ashamed and embarrassed by what happened to them. To be ridiculed, made fun of, and not believed can be devastating. It can cause trust issues for a lifetime. I apologize now for the length of this email. Having said that, I was once one of those people, aka assholes, who made fun of someone 20 plus years ago who had an awful experience. I went right along with everyone else, mocking and dismissing him. More on that later in my email. A little back history. I'm originally from Florida, and I'm a 51-year-old semi-retired nurse of 31 years. My husband is originally from Tennessee, and he's a retired heat treater / metal worker. My husband introduced me to your channel, kind of inadvertently due to the fact that we now live full-time in an RV traveling around the U.S. Tiny living means one TV, LOL. We both have always been outdoors people. In fact, that's what drew us together. We never really discussed Sasquatch or Bigfoot, but since living full-time in an RV and hiking in numerous areas, we've become more aware of not just Sasquatch, but other wildlife we aren't familiar with as well. Back in 2018, shortly after we started this journey, we were coming back to the campground that we were staying in, located in Middle Tennessee, called Deep Valley. It's a very small, privately owned campground near the Cumberland Plateau Mountains. We had been there a few months and hiked all over the woods there. We never saw or heard anything unusual. One spring night, when returning home from shopping, we heard the loudest blood-curdling scream. We were in our truck on the street, turning into the campground. We looked at each other and both said, "What the hell was that?" As we pulled into our campsite, we were exiting the truck, we heard it again. This time, though, it was close, very close. It sent shivers all down our spines. It rang in our ears long after the screaming stopped. To say we were both scared shitless would have been an understatement. We tried all night to rationalize what we heard. Countless hours on the internet, pulling up animal sounds from fox to mountain cats, hoping to hear that scream, to put a face to what we heard. We have to this day never heard that sound duplicated by any animal. Because of that encounter, it startled me thinking. Really thinking about my own beliefs. That brings me to my asshole moment. Like I said, I'm a nurse and from Florida, the city of Tampa to be exact. MacDill Air Force Base is located there. I'm not sure if that makes a difference to the story or not. I worked the night shift as an emergency department nurse at Tampa General Hospital. It is located near the bay where people jog, fish, and bike, etc. One night in 1993, a young man, who was about my age that time, was brought into the ER for superficial wounds, cuts, dehydration, and I noticed it said psych eval. Standard if someone comes in rambling about things. Apparently he had been running through the brush, palm leaf bushes and trees, hence the scratches, scrapes, and cuts. He was rambling about being kidnapped. He sought out a payphone, remember those? And he called the police for himself. When it was my turn to go in and get his vitals and make sure that the IV he had was working, a colleague nurse who initially triaged him said to me, "Be careful, this one's drunk and obviously on something. He's babbling about a skunk ape grabbing him." Note, Sasquatch/Bigfoot is called skunk ape down south. She then laughed and I just rolled my eyes. When I went into the room, this 20-something-year-old man was in a fetal position and crying. I checked on everything and then asked him what was wrong. His eyes got wide as saucers. He grabbed my arm hard. He then told me a story. He stated that he went down to the bay to go fishing near MacDill Air Force Base. He snuck around the fencing hoping the MPs, military police, wouldn't catch him. He had brought a 6-pack of beer with him. He kept telling me over and over how he wasn't drunk. The doctor says I'm just drunk, but I'm not. He said he had his back to the wooded area and was loading the bait on his hook when he caught a scent of something putrid. A skunk smell mixed with rotting hot garbage full of dead fish. He had longer hair on the back, a fashionable mullet haircut to be exact. Anyways, he looked around for what was causing the smell when something or someone grabbed the back of his hair and started dragging him. He started screaming and kicking. He managed to look up and saw a hairy man, about 7 feet tall, dragging him toward a large cedar tree. He stated he honestly thought the creature was going to bash him against the tree. Instead, he said, they went into the tree, like an invisible door or something. He then woke up on the beach area about 6 to 8 feet from his fishing gear and the other 4 beers left. He stood up and just started running as fast as he could to get to a store or area where there was a payphone. He called the cops, told them what happened, and they brought him to the ER. I asked him, well, what happened when the skunk ape took into the tree? I said it sarcastically. I know I did. He also could tell I was another person who didn't believe him. I could see it in his face. I did feel guilty. I could see how my sarcastic tone hurt him. I'm not a bitch nor a hateful nurse. I apologized for my tone and told him to please continue to tell me what he saw or what happened when he went into the tree. He answered he couldn't remember. He must have blacked out. The only thing else he remembers was waking up on the beach. Looking back now, I wonder if he really didn't remember, or if he was just saying that because he'd seen I was going to treat him like all the rest of the staff. I went back to the nurse's station and, yes, acted like a real asshole, laughing and making fun of him with the other nurses and doctor on shift. It wasn't until meeting my husband and several experiences and adventures later, as well as first-hand knowledge myself, did I self-reflect and realize that my way of thinking about many topics, including Sasquatch, needed to change. I needed to be more open-minded. Just because I haven't experienced something doesn't mean the other person didn't. I regret to this day not only making fun of that patient, but not taking him seriously. I pray that patient has gotten help and it didn't scare him mentally for life. My gut tells me he is still suffering. Maybe he has stumbled upon your channel. Maybe he will hear this email and know that I'm truly sorry for not believing him and thinking what most think. Oh, he's probably drunk. Or the famous line, I believe you believe what you saw. That line is bullshit. I can't stand it when someone blurts that shit out. I'm not sure if what my husband and I heard that night in the campground was a Sasquatch. I'm not sure what happened to my patient that night was a skunk ape. But I know I personally will never dismiss what someone says as an encounter. Was an encounter. I thankfully learned from that experience in the ER how to be a better and more empathetic nurse. Again, thank you for what you're doing. Not only is it helping the people who experience something, but hopefully it will also reach people who were like me, assholes. Assholes who don't know how to be part of the community. Feel free to use my name, Anissa Osborne. I know it's hard to pronounce, LOL. Now it's pretty easy, I think, although I do find a lot of things hard to pronounce. Anissa, thank you so much for that email. I believe you're leading the way and changing a lot of people's attitudes without a doubt. And hopefully that person is still alive and didn't turn to drugs, alcohol, substance abuse to alleviate that emotional pain. It's a lonely place for many people, right? And to have something like that happen, holy cow, that is something else. That's definitely something that David Polias would be interested in looking into if you could possibly get a hold of that patient, that person. Who knows? Maybe they're watching the channel. There's a good chance of it. So the chance of that person, if they're still alive and emotionally capable, they're probably, they just might be watching this channel, and hopefully they'll email in and chime in and take name drop you in the email, and we can hear their side of the story, and maybe they got more to share. But anyway, thanks for coming forward. You're not the only one. Every single one of us who's a human being has cringe moments from our past. That's how we learn, right? We're not born perfect, especially me. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes while I'm doing this. I make mistakes in this channel, right? But I'm still learning. I'm still growing, and I'm definitely, every single person here is. We're not going to stop until we're dead, right? And then even after we're dead, we're going to go on to that next level and keep going. But anyway, thanks again for sending that email in.